I remember clearly how it all started. That chilly February evening, when my parents gathered us in our spacious living room. My camera, as always, was within reach on the side table, ready to capture another moment in our family's history. Though looking back now, I realize I was documenting more than just memories. Your father and I have something to announce, my mother, Patricia, said with an unusual gleam in her eyes. She stood next to my father, Richard, their fingers intertwined, a rare display of affection that immediately caught my attention through my camera's viewfinder. The news of their wedding plans sparked immediate joy from my siblings. Jennifer, my 25-year-old sister, squealed with delight, while Michael, my 22-year-old brother, gave Dad a hearty pat on the back. I lowered my camera, watching the scene unfold like a distant observer, a role I'd grown accustomed to in our family dynamic. Hawaii, Mom announced, her face glowing. Just a small, intimate ceremony with our closest family and friends. Almost immediately, she turned to Jennifer. Of course, you'll be my maid of honor? The question wasn't really a question at all. Jennifer's eyes welled up with tears as she hugged Mom tightly. Dad similarly approached Michael, asking him to be his groomsman. I kept filming, my lens capturing their happiness while maintaining a safe distance. It wasn't surprising. This was how it had always been. Mom and Jennifer shared their love for shopping and socializing, their bond evident in every frame I captured. Dad and Michael had their football and cars, a connection strengthened by years of shared interests. I zoomed in on Dad's hand on Michael's shoulder, a gesture that spoke volumes about their relationship. Through my viewfinder, I was both present and absent, documenting a family dynamic that had always left me as the odd one out. Over the years, I'd tried to insert myself into their various groups and activities, but like a mismatched puzzle piece, I never quite fit. Maybe they sensed my genuine lack of interest in their hobbies, or maybe they just didn't care. Either way, the camera had become my shield, my way of participating without really being part of it all. Mom had her golden child in sis. Dad had his pride and joy in bro. My parents had each other, and my siblings shared a closeness I'd never experienced. Through my lens, I captured it all. The subtle glances, the inside jokes, the casual touches that marked their bonds. Meanwhile, I remained behind the camera, isolated in my own home, my presence acknowledged, but never quite embraced. Wedding planning, March. During the initial wedding preparations, I brought my camera to every family meeting, hoping to create a wedding documentary. Through my lens, I watched as my role in the ceremony became increasingly unclear. Sarah could be the flower girl, someone suggested during one planning session. I lowered my camera, a flicker of hope rising in my chest. Jennifer quickly cut in, her voice honey sweet but firm. Oh, my little Emma would be perfect for that. She's just at that adorable age. She pulled her 3-year-old daughter closer, and I raised my camera again, capturing the way Mom's face softened at the suggestion. Later, my grandmother Margaret, always my silent supporter, spoke up during a video call. Sarah could read a poem during the ceremony. She has such a lovely speaking voice. I focused my lens on Mom's reaction, already knowing what was coming. We want to keep things low-key, Dad interjected, barely looking up from his phone. No cheesy speeches or anything like that. Mom nodded in agreement, and I zoomed in on their expressions, documenting another moment of casual dismissal. Through my viewfinder, I watched as the wedding planning consumed our household. I filmed Mom and Jennifer's excited chatter about dress shopping, trips I was never invited to join. I recorded countless discussions about venues and decorations, where my input was neither sought nor welcomed. I decided to conduct an experiment. I would keep filming but remain completely silent during these planning sessions, waiting to see if anyone would notice my lack of participation. My camera became my diary, recording days of being overlooked, of questions unasked, of involvement unsought. The footage I collected told a story, but not the one I had initially hoped to create. Instead of a joyful wedding documentary, I was compiling evidence of my own invisibility in this family. Each frame captured not just events, but the subtle ways I was being written out of this significant family milestone. The day before departure, late August. The day before their Hawaii departure, I was in my room editing old footage when Mom's voice carried up the stairs. "Sarah, is your luggage ready? We can't be late to the airport tomorrow." I set my camera down carefully, the reality of the situation suddenly crystal clear. "No," I replied, walking downstairs with my camera in hand out of habit. "I haven't packed anything." Mom stood in our marble-floored entryway, surrounded by designer suitcases. Her confusion turned to irritation. "What do you mean you haven't packed? We're leaving first thing in the morning." I lifted my camera, wanting to capture this moment for posterity. "Do I even have a ticket?" The color drained from her face, and I zoomed in, making sure to capture this reaction. Through my viewfinder, I watched the realization dawn on her. They had completely forgotten to buy me a ticket. The same parents who had purchased first-class tickets for my siblings and their friends had forgotten their youngest daughter entirely. "Don't make this into a big deal," Mom said, her voice dropping to that placating tone I knew so well. "We can find you a last-minute ticket on a budget airline." I lowered my camera, letting it hang around my neck. "What about a dress? Does anyone even remember if I have something to wear to the ceremony?" Dad walked in then, his presence filling the doorway. "Just wear whatever you have," he said dismissively. "You've never been much of a girly girl anyway." The camera felt heavy around my neck as anger bubbled up inside me. "This isn't about being girly," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "This is about being forgotten. About being excluded from everything for months." The argument that followed was explosive. I filmed parts of it, my hands shaking but steady enough to capture their accusations of me being entitled, of deliberately making myself small so they would forget me. The absurdity of being blamed for my own exclusion was almost laughable. "If you're going to keep this attitude," Dad finally said, "maybe you should skip the whole thing." I stopped recording then, looking at them directly instead of through my lens. "Fine," I said, and turned to walk back upstairs, my camera clutched to my chest like a shield. The wedding week. The next morning, I sat at my desk, editing footage as I heard them leave. My camera sat silent beside me. No new memories to capture today. Through my social media feeds, I watched as their perfect Hawaiian wedding week unfolded. Every Instagram post and Facebook update showed beaming smiles and pristine beaches, a picture-perfect family celebration minus one member. It didn't take long for people to notice my absence in the photos. Comments started appearing. "Where's Sarah? Missing your youngest. Hope Sarah's feeling better." Then I saw it. My mother's response that made my blood boil. I grabbed my camera, hands shaking as I read her public comment. Unfortunately, Sarah caught COVID right before the trip and had to stay behind. "We miss her so much." I set up my tripod, something I hadn't done since my last documentary project. With precise movements, I positioned myself in frame, held up a fresh COVID test, and pressed record. The resulting image was crystal clear, me holding a definitively negative test result, with a caption that would change everything. "Not sick at all, just forgotten." I tagged everyone who had asked about my absence. Then methodically, like editing a documentary, I added every wedding guest to the post. In the comments, I detailed the truth, how they had forgotten about everything concerning me until the day before departure, how I was uninvited for questioning their oversight. The aftermath. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Through my camera's screen, I reviewed clips from the past months. The dress shopping I wasn't invited to. The planning meetings where I was ignored. The countless moments of exclusion. Each frame validated my decision to expose the truth. Initially, satisfaction coursed through me as I watched the story unfold online. But as messages from family members began flooding in, each one more vitriolic than the last, that satisfaction began to crack. I set my camera down, for once not wanting to document these moments. When they returned, the house became a battlefield of accusations. Immature, spoiled, how could you? Their words echoed through the halls. But for the first time, I didn't hide behind my lens. This wasn't a scene I needed to capture. I was finally ready to be in the frame rather than behind it. Grandmother's intervention, mid-September. I finally picked up my camera again, but this time to call my grandmother Margaret on video chat. The lens captured her warm, concerned face as I told her everything, not just about the wedding, but years of feeling like an outsider, documented through my photography. "My dear girl," she said, her voice steady despite her visible emotion. "You know this wasn't just forgetfulness, don't you? I've watched through your photos over the years, seeing what you've seen." I nodded, tears blurring my vision as I adjusted the focus. "I've got it all on camera, Grandma. Every missed birthday, every excluded moment. I thought maybe I was imagining things, but I'm coming to you," she announced firmly, her determination clear even through the slightly pixelated video. "Your Uncle Robert and I will be there tomorrow." "But Grandma, your health," I protested, my camera capturing her dismissive wave. "Some things are worth the effort, Sarah. And you, my dear, are worth every mile." The arrival. At the airport, I filmed her arrival, my hands trembling as I caught sight of her and Uncle Robert through the crowd. The moment I lowered my camera, she enveloped me in a hug that made all my carefully constructed walls crumble. "Let it out, sweetheart," she whispered as I sobbed into her shoulder. "You don't have to document everything. Some moments are just for feeling." Back at their hotel, I shared my footage with them. Years of family events seen through my lens. A documentary of subtle exclusion and dismissal. Uncle Robert, a lawyer by profession, watched with increasingly furrowed brows. "You've been incredibly strong," he said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "But you don't have to be anymore. We're here now." Grandma was already making plans. "Pack your essentials while we talk to your parents," she instructed. "And Sarah? Leave the camera. This conversation isn't one you need to record." The confrontation. When we arrived home, I left my camera in my bag for the first time in years. I wanted to experience this moment directly, not through a lens. The shock on my parents' faces when they opened the door to find Grandma and Uncle Robert was completely raw and unfiltered. "Go pack what you need," Grandma directed me, her voice leaving no room for argument. As I climbed the stairs, I heard her firm tone addressing my parents. "We need to talk about Sarah." I moved through my room, gathering essentials into 2 suitcases and my backpack. Even without my camera, I mentally documented everything. The sound of raised voices from downstairs, the thud of my packed bags, the familiar weight of my camera equipment as I carefully stored it. The breaking point. When I came downstairs, the scene was striking enough that I instinctively reached for my camera before stopping myself. Mom was crying, Dad's face was flushed red, and Grandma sat regally in her chair, Uncle Robert standing supportively behind her. Mom reached out toward me, sobbing, "I'm sorry." "Save it," I replied, my voice steady for the first time in years. The words didn't need to be captured on film. They were etched in my memory. "You don't have to be a jerk about it," Dad started, but both Grandma and Uncle Robert silenced him with a sharp, "Shut up." I walked out the door without looking back, the weight of my camera bag feeling lighter than ever. In the taxi, Grandma held my hand as I faced forward. toward a future I wouldn't need to document to validate. New beginnings. At the hotel, I finally set up my camera again, but this time to film something different. Plans for my future. Grandma sat beside me as we discussed college and living arrangements, her presence more comforting than any lens could capture. They offered to throw me a birthday party, I said, reviewing the messages on my phone. Dad mentioned something about a car, too. Grandma's dismissive snort was perfect footage material, though I didn't film it. Trying to buy their way out of guilt, she said. But you need more than material things, don't you, Sarah? I nodded, finally understanding why I'd spent years hiding behind my camera. I needed them to see me. Really see me. Apartment hunting. The next day, we visited my friend's studio apartment, my planned escape route. I brought my camera to document our potential new home, but as soon as we arrived, I lowered it in shock. The reality was worse than any footage could convey. Absolutely not, Grandma declared, pointing at the water damage and mold. My friend's parents, who had joined us, pointed out bullet holes in the walls that my camera wouldn't have picked up in the dim light. Instead of filming the disappointment, I found myself part of a different scene. Adults who genuinely cared about my well-being, planning a better future for me. They discussed safer neighborhoods, proper apartments, and shared living arrangements that wouldn't compromise my safety. Moving forward, in my friend's home, where I temporarily settled, I began reviewing years of footage, not to document pain anymore, but to understand my journey. My brother's message flashed on my phone, a long, genuine apology that made me pause my editing. "I've been watching your old videos," he wrote. I never realized. "I'm so sorry, Sarah." I set my camera aside, contemplating his words. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to document my response. Some healing happens off camera. Epilogue. As I prepared for my first therapy session, I packed my camera but didn't take it out. I was learning that not every moment needed to be captured. Some just needed to be lived. In my bag, though, I kept the COVID test photo that had changed everything. Not as evidence anymore, but as a reminder. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones we choose to tell, not just the ones we document.